I was livid. It was at this time that we learned that Mr. McIntyre was not a federal agent. And I made some reference to wanting to speak to his superior, and he said, you know, Nick, I'm not an FBI agent. Why would you think that?
Yeah, little Mr. Nick took the stand in his trial, and he tried to sell to the jury this whole story of Mr. Jim. Ultimately, the jury didn't buy it, but he went hard on this. So let's talk about who's Nick and who in a hey diddle diddle is Jim. Nick Kassotis was charged in connection with the death of his wife Mindy in Liberty County, Georgia. Prosecutors would say that Kassotis killed her, while the defense claimed that her death was an unaliving and that she had been struggling personally before she passed away. Now they would bring in forensic evidence, witness testimony, detailed accounts of the couple's relationship, you name it, but ultimately a jury would find Nick guilty of multiple charges. Now while Nick came up with one of the most outlandish stories you could ever imagine on the stand and in the interrogation that we've already looked at, the center of the story was Jim. So to give some context, if you're unfamiliar with this, let's talk about who Jim was for a second. So Nick would claim that Jim was like an older family friend, a mentor type figure, okay? And he would be the center of his narrative, of the defense's narrative. Now, Nick is going to point to Jim as someone who would corroborate most of all his life events, right? The moving, the this, the that. He would state that Jim was essentially working for the FBI and they had come in to get him and Mindy out of being ultimately targeted individuals. And as you heard in the clip we just went over, Nick would then state he ultimately found out that this dude wasn't even actually in the FBI. Now the defense would really lean on the whole Jim story as this credible, stabilizing presence and try to show that Nick wasn't some violent figure that the prosecutors were painting him out to be. Instead, they would frame Jim's knowledge of the couple's dynamic as proof that Mindy had a lot of stuff going on that could have contributed to her death. Now, ultimately, like I said, they didn't buy the Jim story because Jim most likely was never even real, okay? So that's gonna bring us to our time on the stand with Nick. So go ahead, buckle up your seatbelts, get your coffee, get something, you're gonna need it for this, because in today's video, your mouth is going to be on the floor.
Hey, 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 welcome to the Sofa Squad, sipping from the cup at hey, hey.
Now hold on everybody, let's do a quick sofa sidebar now. Keep in mind, ain't no cop, ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer, ain't no therapist, ain't none of that fancy credentialed stuff, okay? Only credentials we got up in here is my sass, and this sofa. Now keep in mind also, I'm just giving my opinions on very public information, so do your own research, come to your own opinions, and drop them off in the comment section. And while you're down there, if you do like what you see here at the Sofa Squad, drop a little like, drop a little comment, drop a little share. It helps the channel out immensely. Now let's get edition.
And will you spell that? The Killian James and Star.
Oh, Killian is K-I-L-I-A-N and James is J-A-M-E-S.
Where were you born?
I was born in Peterborough, New Hampshire.
Where did you grow up?
Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. It is a very small town directly on the Massachusetts border. Small, rural New Hampshire. You talk about one stoplight towns, and we don't even have a full stoplight. It's one of those flashing ones.
Okay, the reason I wanted to put this here is because notice he's taking the stand. This is with his attorney. So this is going to be, you know, softball, right? He's just up there to tell the story, his version. Personalities, people like Nick always think that they can get out of trouble by talking their way out of it. Well, Donna didn't take the stand, but nonetheless, she thought she could get out of trouble. Nick, when he is up here, notice how he addresses the jury. Pretend you're the jury. I'm Nick. Well, it was a small rural town in New Hampshire. You know how you hear the one light stop it? Love those shows. So he is coming off as so smarmy. Oftentimes you don't see people very polished to speak in front of a jury unless they're like a police officer. Someone who's doing this normally and they know, like, look at the jury, address them. Now I'm sure his attorney told him to do this, but you can see the salesmanship. Now another thing you might be noticing is this the same guy as the interrogation, Paul? Yeah, right? He's lost a lot of weight, okay? So he's been prepping for this moment for a while. Okay, he's ready to tell his story, and well, we're here to listen.
Please tell the jury about your time in the Navy.
Yeah, I went on active duty starting in early 2008 after completing some training. We have what's called Officer Development School and then Naval Justice School, and then I reported to my first duty station in Norfolk, Virginia.
Yeah, you heard that right. He was in the Navy, and it gets even better when you're like, well, what did he do in the Navy, Paul? Well, I'm getting ready to let him tell you.
Tell us about your time as a prosecutor.
I handled court martials in the military, also some administrative boards, folks getting kind of thrown out. A lot of sexual assaults, unfortunately. That is the most common crime I think we see at the court-martial level in the military, but some drug use cases, thefts, things of that nature.
Before we go further, Navy prosecutor. He's never done these big murder cases, stuff like that. Regardless, someone who has done law on some level, keep in mind the story you're about to listen to come out of this man's mouth, okay? It frightens me to think of this guy ever being in any kind of situation of power, of authority, of anything of this nature, right? This man is absolutely in extreme danger to ever be on the streets ever again. Many have suffered. Obviously, Mindy lost her life. This guy is a psychopath. And it literally, the one thing that goes to my mind is, I'm like, how do people like him get it together to get in like the service or things like that? Like, cause it might not, this is me, I don't know, this is so speculation. I don't know what it's like to go through the thing to get in the Navy or whatever, right? But in my world, I'm like, don't they put you through a lot of like testing and stuff, and pretend you might be like, oh, Paul, there's some, are you serious, Paul? There's like some really, off the wall people in there. But then I'm like, but he made it all the way to like a prosecutor. Like, how do you do that? And I guess the part that I'm asking in that is the delusion that he lives in. It's that part that makes this guy stand out to me. That's so crazy to me, because it's just, I don't see how you can go through a normal day being this psychotically like, well, in distortion. Now this next clip we're gonna watch, the lady who they're focused on, her face is literally all of our faces watching this. We're like, are you serious, right?
To your time in the Navy, tell us about your personal life during that time.
When I arrived in Norfolk, I was single, and several months later, I met then Heather Bassett, who I later married.
Do you recall when you married Heather Bassett?
September 26th, 2009.
Tell us about that marriage.
It was not great. We had a lot of issues, I think, kind of throughout, to the point where I later heard the night before our wedding, she told somebody publicly that she didn't think it was going to last. I was deployed a lot. I was deployed for a large chunk of our engagement. I was deployed within 2 months of us getting married. I don't think either of those is also a good step for marital success. I think we had a lot of disagreements kind of throughout our marriage.
What kind of disagreements did you have?
Things about money, about career moves, about children.
What were the disagreements about children?
When we had started dating, Heather had stated that she wanted children and that it would be relatively easy for her to have children. That she had a something called PCOS.
I shudder to think the things that people went through with this man. Here's the thing, and one reason I wanted to play this clip is so you can, number one, start piecing together his trajectory of women, but also when you hear him say, oh, we had problems, and again, any marriage, any relationship, friendship, whatever, they have issues. I'm not trying to sit here and say that this is unique to him, okay? So we get that, we understand that, we've moved on. What is unique to him is when he talks about this, and when you start aligning all of his pathological lying, my opinion of him is this, and again, non-professional, non-credentialed, whatever, is that this is somebody who had so many plates spinning, so many lies going that clearly couldn't keep up with them, but the absurd, like, distortion level, disconnected from reality was like a lie to keep up with a lie to keep up with a lie to keep up with a lie. So like, for example, he's the type to me that would go out and blow money and on something like dumb, right? He's married to woman A, right? Now he might be talking to woman B, C, and D over here, okay? Also going to the little, what kind of bar over here. Also online with, maybe some corn sites that cost a lot of money, kind of like Grand Amato style, maybe a little gambling addiction over here. You see where I'm going, like all these other things going and all this money's going out, well, he has to make up lies for that. And so then it's just like, oh, well, I got a job, baby. Yeah, I got $32 million. We're going to get the money. We're going to get the money, baby. But listen, this gym guy says we got to move this week. You see where I'm going, like it's just lie on top of lie on top of lie on top of lie.
I believed that it resolved itself in an agreement and then a payment to her.
What was the agreement on what you were supposed to pay Heather in that resolution?
In that resolution, I was supposed to pay her roughly $1.5 million.
Did you make that payment?
I believed the payment was made on my behalf. I did not actually make the payment, but I saw documentation and I believed at the time that it was made. I had no reason not to.
I believe you told the court you had $32 million. Is that correct?
That's what I was told. That's what I had been provided documentation to show.
1.5 million, he said. Now you heard at the end the 32 million. Okay. Well, I was led to believe that. I was showed the paperwork. I was told this, I was told that. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Literally, this dude just makes stuff up, and it's like, it's not even believable. Okay. Here's me. If I was gonna sit here and make up something about some fake dude who FBI targeted individual, he's moving my family around, all this to keep us whatever, and he has me working for some company that I'm getting paid in stocks for 32 million, I would have been like, this would have been like, yeah, the stocks were like about, for a year, it was like about 100,000. That's way more believable. Even this might be like, so wait, you're working for this company, you don't get any paycheck, you don't get this, that, and the other. Well, I saw some papers. Okay, well, where are they? They burnt up in the car. This is kind of how things went with him, but there were car burning up. But it's that type of stuff where you're like, can you prove to me this? No. Okay, so then what's the truth, dude?
Virginia's a little strange, but there is an Alexandria City part of Alexandria, which is, so they are their own county, and then there is a Fairfax County part of Alexandria, which is where I live.
Did you report it to any county law enforcement?
I did not.
What happened after?
I'm sorry, can I say why? The mail, my understanding, was a federal crime, as well as the banking issues, and since they all seemed, I imagine that they were all connected, I did not think going to local law enforcement would accomplish anything except for a police report.
Now this part right here is like, can I say why? What he's talking about is the origin, the lore of why they get hooked up with Jim and why they're on the run and why they're doing this. And it all starts with like missing mail and charges to credit cards and this, that, and the other. And then being like these targeted individuals, we'll just say. And then Jim steps in to save the day, but they have to constantly move, constantly change identity. This level of ludicrousy that you've never heard of before. But guess what? We've now heard of it because of this one.
Back forward to the vandalism that you were experiencing. What type of vandalism was that?
Nails in our tires, a broken window, things of that nature. I mean, we wouldn't even move our cars some days, and it would have a new hole in the tire.
Was there any result of you making this report to the FBI?
Yes, there was.
What happened?
I contacted I tried to contact a former colleague who worked with the Department of Justice. I hoped that it would get us out of the bin of everybody's complaints and a bit more attention. I wasn't sure if I had managed to contact him, just because of his job. He keeps a very low profile. But several days later, I got a call at work. This was when I was working as a civilian at the Board for Correction and Naval Records, and Mindy said that an FBI agent had come to the house.
It's the self-importance for me, right? You would think that this man is the President of the United States. Why do you feel that you are special enough to be this highly sought-after individual? Now, I'm not trying to sit here and say a person cannot be in the realm of having vandalism done to them, or they are somebody who might have some kind of information that, yes, the government is after you, right? Clearly, this has happened before. Not with this dude, though, okay? They heard him sit here and say, like, some days we would be there and we'd go out to the car and, like, there was, like, a new tire hole in it. It was really frightening. Several times I actually, urinated myself upon finding this. This is my first thought. I'm like, okay, you know how you pop a tire, but, like, it doesn't deflate till the next day? I'm like, this is probably what would happen with this dude. Now, also, he seems to me to be the type that could be, and I'm going to say this loosely, targeted in a sense of he's probably conjures up a bunch of drama wherever he's at. So I can see, like, the teenage, kids picking on him or something like that. But to this degree where he's like calling the FBI and doing this and blah, I ain't buying it.
Screenshots of the charges that showed what had been going on, and we provided all that to him, and he said that it was something he took seriously and that he would be investigating it.
So some random individual shows up at your house, says he's with the FBI, and claims to be a man named Jim McIntyre. What did you do to verify that information?
I didn't verify it. Mindy believed that she had seen a badge, or she told me at the time that she'd seen a badge. I had no reason to doubt that he was who he said he was. It didn't cross my mind that somebody else could have shown up at my house at that time.
And there you go. Now, you already heard the beginning clip that we looked at of, well, he wasn't actually an FBI agent. Why would you think that? This is going on, even if you've been in the Navy, whatever, it doesn't matter. Someone shows up to your house, you've been experiencing something that makes you think you're targeted, okay? So a random dude shows up and he can't confirm. He's like, I think Mindy thought she saw a badge. Again, Mindy's not here to tell her side of this story, okay? Unfortunately, Mindy is no longer here because of him. He can't even confirm that though. He's like, well, we had no reason to not trust him. Honey, if you were really targeted, okay, and think about people who go down this rabbit hole, and either ones that are legitimate, like they might have some kind of information or have done something with the government, like what, and they're trying to talk, what, like there's a reason that they are being sought after, okay? Versus someone who there might be maybe some mental health issues going on and they think that they're targeted. And I don't know what you call that, but like that type situation. So why wouldn't you question up one side and down the next? In either of those scenarios, a random man that shows up to your house and says they're with the FBI, especially if you're thinking that everybody's out to get you. Okay, period, end of story. I mean, I would be like, can I see? I mean, I can't even remember. You know that the jury at this point has to be like, who is this fool?
What did Jim McIntyre advise you?
Over the coming weeks or months, he advised us that he believed that this Washington Post article had gotten me some attention, that I was from a overseas, hacking group of some sort that was targeting members of the military. He said that we should relax somewhat because he believed that the local vandalism and things of that nature were likely something they were paying kids to do or something of that nature. We were not in real danger. It was meant to be harassing us, and that he was continuing to investigate it.
Do you recall the approximate time or date that Jim McIntyre initially showed up and you had this conversation?
This was sometime in late 2017.
So an overseas group is funneling money to have locals go pop your tires, okay? I think at this point, if I was on the jury, I would actually be ticked off, right? I would feel like my time is being so insanely wasted by this guy. He's so obviously guilty of whatever crimes they've accused him of. It doesn't even make sense. And again, I want to balance that out with, you never know, but I don't think that they're going to funnel money into some dark web of stuff to go pop this dude's tires.
Do at that point in time for work?
At that point, I believed I was being employed by a software company that he had connected me to, that Jim McIntyre had connected me to.
What software company did you believe you were employed by?
The name changed multiple times over the years that I believe I worked there. The ending name was Apis Limited, which I believe is the Latin word for bee or something like that.
Well,
like a bumblebee or a honeybee.
do you know why Jim McIntyre would help you find a job?
Yeah, I believed that he was helping me because of our situation, that he knew people, which is not uncommon, private sector and the government on criminal, especially cyber investigations, often have to work very hand in hand. And as I had talked to him, and I was hoping to find something that would allow me to work from home, because despite his reassurances that he did not think at that time we were in real danger, I was very uncomfortable leaving Mindy home alone. We had suffered a very serious car accident. She had a lot of health issues following that, and leaving my frail wife at home by herself when we're undergoing this was something that really bothered me.
Really bothered him. Didn't bother him when he was dismembering her, though. Now, here's the other thing. You heard him say, well, it went under multiple name changes. With people like this, there's never a simple answer. Never a simple answer. And remember, the software company he's claiming he worked for only paid him in stock options or something worth $32 million. So somehow this dude's able to work for free, okay? Talking about, I got stock options, I got stock options, I got this, I got that. And again, this is through Jim, the pretend person who got him this job, who ends up not even being with the FBI. It's just some random person who showed up at his door, right, and did all this for him. Okay, his defense attorney I would have been embarrassed. I mean, of all the ones that we talked about, I would have been ashamed to get up there and even try and come up with a defense for this guy. But it's what you have to do, and you can only go based on what it is. And the dude's probably sticking like, this is the story. And he thinks, if I can get up here, they'll believe me. I I can talk my way out of this. I've done it 100 times. And again, one thing that people like him, people like Sarah Boone, people like Donna Adelson, they get away with is because when they're doing their stuff, most people just want to get away from them. Most people just want to make them shut up. Most people want to move on with their lives and days. So they kind of pander to these personality types to get away, and they misinterpret it as them being slick, them being too smart, them being this or that. And in a sense, they do win because they manipulate people into being like, oh, just get them, oh, I can't, get away from me, get away from me. But the reality is, it's like, no, you're just insufferable. Okay, it's not because you outsmarted me. It's because your presence is triggering me to a core level, and I have to get away.
And that's about the same time that Heather is coming, finally bringing it to a head to collect this divorce obligations that you've failed to perform?
Yes.
So when you agreed to pay her $1.5 million, what made you think that you had $1.5 million?
Mr. Jim McIntyre told me I did.
Blame it on Jim. Well, you know, Sarah Boone, I'm blaming it on the wine. Blaming it on Jim. That's the token slogan for this trial right here. Blame it on Jim. Charge it to the game? Nope. Charge it to Jim.
Why would Jim McIntyre know how much money you had?
Because there was a large sale or licensing agreement that was completed at some point. I wasn't getting paid by this company. I was paid only in stock options, and I was told that this large sum of money was being given to me. I believe this was late 2018. Honestly, it felt kind of like a lottery ticket. It was something that I had never expected.
We were wealthy. We were rich. Times were great. Honey, no. You're not even taking a paycheck. You got 32 million. Well, I thought that I had 1.5. I mean, this man has lived this huge life, and I don't know if it's in this video or where it was at, which the process is. But someone saying, and I think it was the interrogation where the cop was like, we talked to your friends and they said that you're the type of person that basically takes real things and puts in your false reality with them. And I think that that's 100% what this dude does. He takes something legitimate. So owing a partner money in a divorce is a very normal thing, right? Owing large sums of money is very normal. What's not normal is this dude to be talking about, oh wow, it's worth 32 million paper, but never got a paycheck, never got this, never got that. The company's changed this and that. Oh, this pretend FBI guy got me the job. Oh, I owed Heather 1.5 million, but never could pay her. Oh, it goes on, right? And so somewhere in there is a kernel of truth. And I'm talking a tiny kernel.
Why would you tell the judge that Mindy was the impediment to you paying the $1.5 million?
At the time, that's what I was told.
And you heard the judge warn you that you better come up with that money in the next week, correct?
Absolutely.
And what did the judge tell you would happen if you didn't come up with that money in the next week?
That I'd be held in contempt and, arrested.
Did you come up with that money in the next week?
I believed I did.
Why did you believe you did?
Because when I returned home, both Mindy and Jim McIntyre were there. I thought I was going to have to go to Atlanta to meet with Mindy. She had been gone for several days, but Jim said that this was, kind of his last investigative step into Heather, into Mrs. Thomas, and he said that she was not involved in what was going on. That he had wired the money. I had a wire confirmation, and I had bank documents later showing that money coming out of the trust, and I assumed that everything was settled.
Do you have any of that documentation right now?
I do not anymore.
Why not?
Because we left that house later that year, and I don't know if we left it there or if it is something that we lost over time, but we moved a lot, so.
Y'all, I can't with this, okay? Of course he doesn't have the documentation. Why would he? I'd be shocked if he did. Okay, well, Jim had discovered that, Heather wasn't part of the conspiracy against us. Can you imagine him in court? Again, Daryl Brooks, Sarah Boone, this is what they do. And so him sitting here and like, oh, the judge said he's gonna throw me in jail for contempt. So what does he do? He comes up with this whole story. Well, I have this stuff. I've got the wire thing. I've got the this. I've got the that. Because these kind of people are not the norm. This isn't the average person. Like, the average person doesn't scheme to this level, okay? At first, the judge and people like this in these different cases, and I'm not talking about the murder case, but like, imagine this dude in like a civil court or a divorce court or things like this. They're gonna kind of be like, okay, well, what's up? Oh, well, my job does this and this and that and the other. Okay, well, the next court date, bring the documentation to this. You either, okay, well, I actually had a car fire. And they can sniff it out real quick, right? But they ride on this whole wave of this. And I think this is what he did. head. And it's just, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse.
Put this in here, it's going to be destroyed. Things like photographs, framed pictures, china. And he said to get a local storage unit, put it in there, and give him the key, and then he would help. He would have it moved later on.
Give the random person who shows up at your door a key to your storage unit with all your stuff. Check that off my list.
The night that we arrived there, or possibly the next day, I was assaulted at the house that he had set up as a long-term rental. At that time, he had told me that I was being targeted by members of my family, most specifically my father, Wayne Kassotis.
Now, mind you, at some point in time, he's lined up how, I didn't want to leave my frail wife, I didn't want to do this. Now we're being targeted. We're targeted by overseas people, funneling money through dark web to pop tires. Okay, we've lived through that. Phew, glad we survived that. Now it's the family. Now these two worlds will collide at one point when that situation goes down, he comes home, he runs out the door, and I feel like they'll confront him about this, and it's like, or maybe it was in I'm getting the interrogation and this confused, but whoever is talking to him is like, well, if you were protecting your wife and you're so scared of your father, why did you run out the back door and leave her? He gets in the butt train, right? He loves riding the butt train. Maybe I shouldn't say the butt train, that's pretty bad. You know what I mean.
I assumed that he was paying for it out of our own money, but because he had access to this trust, I didn't think this was coming out of FBI funds or anything.
Why did he have access to your money?
Because he was keeping it safe for us, was our understanding.
Y'all, access to, what do you have, the storage unit, personal information, passwords, trust fund, job. This is a guy who is afraid of being a targeted individual who is blindly giving over all this stuff to somebody. I just want to know, at what point when he was cooking the story up, did he really think he could sell this story? Like, how did he think somebody was going to really buy it?
How would you move your things?
We had, at that time, a couple of cardboard boxes. As time went on, those obviously get destroyed. And we had plastic bins that were delivered to us. And when those would get destroyed, we would get new ones.
Now, the plastic bins that ultimately Mindy's remains would be found in.
How were those places procured?
By Mr. Jim McIntyre. We never knew when we would move. We never knew when we would move out. Sometimes we would be in a place for 6 or 7 weeks. Those were rare but wonderful, and sometimes it would be every 2 or 3 days.
You would think the royal family was coming to tour the United States, where they talk, well, we had to send Secret Service in days before our arrival and have the staff lay out things like certain colored M&Ms or little slippers next to the bed for us. Sometimes those stays when it lasts. Literally, I want to stand and be like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Okay, this drives me crazy. It's honestly infuriating me. It's upsetting me in a level that speaks more about myself than it does him. This says more about me. Why does it upset me so bad, right? I don't even know the guy. It's so absurd. Like, to me, like, I find comedy and absurdity, but then there's a level of the absurdity where I'm like, come on, dude. Personally, if I was his defense attorney, I would have been going for like some kind of a mental health type situation, but he was like, what? No, dude, put me on the stand. Put me on the stand. This is 100% a trust me, bro. I got this. That's absolutely what's going on here.
Tell me the full list, if you will, of everything that you gave Jim McIntyre access to.
He had access to our home. He had a spare key to our home, as well as the alarm code while we lived there. He had all of our bank accounts, USAA and a couple others that we had tried to pick up to do that. He had, at this point, our mail. We had initially moved our mail to a post office because of the constant issues we had getting our mail. It would just, sometimes for days we would not get any mail, and then we would get things that slipped through that said, well, you haven't paid this bill that we hadn't received. Shortly before we left, we moved our mail to a service down in Florida that would scan it and hold on to it for you, let you know what it was. So he had access to that, all of our social media, both of our social media, anything from Reddit to Twitter to Instagram to Facebook. He also had our Signal. So Signal is a encrypted messaging app. I know we've heard a little talk about it. You can mirror Signal from your phone to a computer, so that you could use either the phone or the computer. He had us mirror our Signal accounts to or not personal, I thought professional computers of his, so that he could monitor those conversations as well.
Okay. I'll ask you to just slow down just a little bit to make sure the court reporter gets everything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had to use the pillow to prop my arm up. I got so tired of listening to this man go on. You heard it all. Now, again, remember, these are people, I'm like, I can tell you why you're targeted. I can tell you why people are able to do so. You just let somebody who walks up to your front door have access to all this stuff. Now, clearly, in my unprofessional opinion, what's going on here, why would you sit here and say a pretend person had access to all this stuff? To cover up your tracks, right? End of story. The question is, how often did he fall on stuff like this, or before he did the Jim thing, like what was the standard lie for him like throughout life or whatever before Jim came into his life? Now the lady, if you saw the lady in the background sitting there laughing, you know people had to openly be laughing about this in the court. I mean, I'm sure the judge ran it smoothly, like everybody reel it in. This is so trifling. There's literally no way I would be able to hold myself in. I'd be like, I have to go out in the hallway. I can't do this.
You referenced Mindy's health issues. What health issues was she having at this time?
She got very sick in February. Over the course of 2020, I, did kind of extensive spreadsheets on when I thought she had different symptoms. She'd had, at the time what appeared to be a very nasty cold, but later I questioned whether it might be COVID. And then in June, the week we spent in Charleston, she had some sort of I don't know what you would call it, a spell. She started shaking uncontrollably. Her eyes were very, very large. Her pupils dilated almost to the edge of her eyes. I was absolutely terrified.
So what kind of treatment, if any, did she get for that?
I was told that she went to there's a large hospital in Charleston, and I forget what it's called. I think it's affiliated with a college or university, but I was told she was brought there, that they tested her extensively and couldn't find anything over the period of 2 or 3 days, and she was better and returned.
This is all very passive voice. You didn't take her to the hospital?
I did not. Mr. McIntyre took her to the hospital. This was a concern of ours throughout, that when she was seeking medical treatment, because of our insurance, because of our last names, that this was going to pop up somewhere that could potentially be used to identify us.
I can't. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm making y'all suffer. Okay. He doesn't he make you want to fight, right? Like it upsets me like that, because I'm sitting here listening to this, and I wanted to play that whole clip so you could see the severity of him describing her medical condition. And then, I couldn't go to the thing. Jim had to take her. With our situation and people finding us and the insurance and the this. And I'm just like, again, who do you think you are that somebody would believe this? The self-importance is oozing off this guy. Honey, nobody cares. That's this man's worst fear, is that nobody will ever pay attention. He probably has loved the spotlight of going to court and doing this. Absolutely loved every second of it. And if you remember back to the interrogation that he was in, even then with cops, he's got a big pair on him. Because the stuff that he just sits here and tries to sell to people and acts a little bit surprised that they don't even believe it. And like right here where I'm just like, dude, the fact that you're going to get on this stand and say this stuff to a jury and the public and not crawl under the defense table is beyond me.
I was livid. It was at this time that we learned that Mr. McIntyre was not a federal agent.
Well, shocker. Absolute shocker. Who would have ever have guessed such a thing would have happened?
And I made some reference to wanting to speak to his superior, and he said, Nick, I'm not an FBI agent. Why would you think that?
Did you continue to maintain your relationship with him after you found out about this?
We did, after following probably the worst argument that Mindy and I ever had.
Oh, I bet it was a scary argument. Y'all, please, somebody send honey buns to the people in the gallery and the jury for not absolutely falling out over this, okay? When the jury got back to the room, like the first 5 minutes, they were howling. I'm talking knee slapping, howling. Literally like, what?
Did you inquire of Jim McIntyre why he was doing all of this work for you if he was not with the FBI?
Absolutely.
What did you learn?
I learned that he was the majority investor in this company that I was working for.
Of all the reasons this bro was going to come do all this type stuff, the majority investor. Talking like who's that guy that runs Apple? You know, somebody like that magnitude, right? That's what he thinks he is. He thinks he's some genius level person like that. Honey, this is all real cute and dandy. This is a person that needs to get knocked down to their level, okay? And I don't even know going to prison the rest of his life will do that.
Why didn't you pay him any money to stay in his home?
We had no money to pay him.
I thought you have a job with Apis Limited.
Yes, that job, you know, I was told was generating money, but we did not have a bank account at this point. We did not have access to any of these funds. We asked multiple times for Jim to send money to Frank to offset the cost. You know, we understood that, you know, there was food, there was dog food, you know, involved in this, but he said he always said he would look into it, and then he would always say, you know, if I do this, you know, it's potential that somebody's going to learn where you are.
Why did you leave Frank IV's home?
He filed to evict us.
Of course he did. $32 million. But his ass is getting evicted. You know this Frank heard that story. That dude heard that story. He's like, get out. Just get out. Well, we can't pay you the rent, sir. We're actually targeted individuals. We're very important. You might not know us. Well, this dude's LARPing something. I don't know what he's LARPing, but he's LARPing something, and he never came out of the LARP, okay? This dude's stuck in LARPing mode. He never came out of the LARP, right? You Google dangers of LARPing. This dude's picture's next to it. He's LARPing Apple CEO, okay? Let's keep going. I can't even with this dude. I can't even.
I paid for that Airbnb.
You had no income. How did you pay for that Airbnb?
At that point, I did have income. I had sold a short story to Sony Pictures and had made several $100,000, and we had managed to get that money. And one of our boundaries with Jim was we were going to understand where we lived, how long we lived there, and we were going to pay for it.
Was that short story fact or fiction?
That was fiction.
What type of fiction was it?
Horror fiction, dark fiction,
Would you describe...
scary stories.
I'm sorry.
We want to know where we're going to live, and we want to pay for it. Sure, that happened. Now, with the short story, that whole thing of, this seemingly might have really happened. This doesn't seem to be a movie adaptation, and allegedly this took place before the crime. So it's one of those things where it was like the story very almost eerily similar to what he ended up doing, like the bones of it, if you will. And so this is one of those things where they have to bring this up because it's too weird. And again, with so many things like this case of you can't make this up, this is like a moment like that. So you already know the jury is going to be like, huh? So imagine this, and this is the kind of thing, and I'm not trying to compare this man to Stephen King, y'all. I'm just using this as an example, right? Imagine if Stephen King got caught. We found out that he went and found his favorite author and had the author tied up and was making him write a book. And you would have been like, huh? Didn't he make a character up? Misery, Kathy Bates, Erin Patterson, the mushroom lady? It's that type vibe, right? So he has to, acknowledge this. Now, it blows my mind that this man could pull something like this off. But again, everything that comes out of this man's mouth is crazy to me.
Reddit is a largely text-based website that has little sub-communities on basically everything. There was a well-known sub-community on there called No Sleep that is people sharing a specific type of scary stories. One's written basically from the viewpoint of the person that is telling them. Almost all, if not all, entirely fictional.
What was the name of the short story that you licensed to Sony?
My mother-in-law is poisoning me, and then I found out why.
What's the name of the mother-in-law?
Betsy.
How'd you come up with that name?
Betsy was my mother-in-law.
What was your relationship like with Betsy?
Fantastic.
Can you describe the plot of that short story? Yeah,
a young woman is married to somebody, and she feels like she's being poisoned by his mother-in-law every time she visits his in-laws' house, and nobody believes her, and over time it all comes to a head. It turns out that the mother-in-law is giving her something to make her sick because the mother-in-law is concerned that the husband is going to kill her for insurance money. The mother-in-law is the hero of the story. She is keeping her safe and sick and in the house so that the so that the evil husband who winds up dying at the end of the story does not bring her out and kill her for money.
Is the evil husband modeled after you?
No.
I don't know where to begin. This is what I'm talking about. They have to bring this up, right? Because it's so obvious. Now, a couple of things you notice when he talks. First of all, shout out to No Sleep, right? I was like, yes, please. So when he says it's told from the vantage point of the person who, and he changes it up. Instead of saying something like from the person who's doing the killing, he's like, oh, from the person who wrote them, you know, he has to throw that in there. And he's like, and almost all of them, excuse me, are entirely fiction, y'all. You know, the jury was sitting there like, bro, you already lost me at Jim with your passwords, and now this?
How did you receive that money? In what form?
It was sent to a bank account that Mr. McIntyre had said he was comfortable with their security, that he was going to help keep safe. Renaissance Bank, I believe there's one right across the street from here.
Jim said it was okay for that one. Okay.
But on an average day, especially when we first got there, we had everything delivered and I would go out very little.
And what about Mindy? What did you observe about her average day?
On her average day, she would not leave the house at all.
Why not?
She was terrified that she would be killed if she did.
Why was she terrified she would be killed? Do you know why she was terrified she would be killed?
Jim told her that while he felt that at this point my family was going to wanted to get me back in the fold, so to speak. He said that that's why I hadn't been killed in Charlottesville when I was assaulted. But he said that they viewed Mindy as an impediment and that they would have killed her had they had the chance.
But you left the house.
I left the house.
Weren't you terrified to leave the house?
I was always terrified to leave the house. But I believed Mindy to be pregnant throughout this, and you know, I don't know. It was my job.
Well, let's talk about that. Why did you believe Mindy to be pregnant?
Mindy told me that she was pregnant.
When did she tell you she was pregnant?
We were still at Frank and Megan's when she said she had taken a pregnancy test and that it was positive.
Now in the interrogation, this will come up where they're like, Mindy was never pregnant. And he's like, she was pregnant. What? No, wasn't pregnant. Not at all. Didn't happen. Now this other part where he's like, you know, well, she was petrified to leave the house, this, that, and the other. This is another thing I think he would do. Again, he's going to find reasons to leave the house. I was terrified to leave. No, he wasn't. He was loving every second of it. He clearly used these stories to just get whatever he wanted. You know, so whether it was the targeted individual, each person probably had a completely different world and version of this dude. Okay, that's how they operate. The only thing that's different about this dude is this one is by far the most outlandish story. I will, however, say it's very much in the same realm of Anthony Todd. If you're familiar with that case, the Anthony Todd case, then you'll know what I'm talking about, where it's so ridiculous. This guy is one of those two. Now, let's jump to where Mindy sadly goes missing and is ultimately found dead. Now, he will have many excuses for this, but one of them centers around the picking up of her ashes. So let's hear what he has to say about that.
Why, if you know, are Mindy's ashes in Alabama?
I had no idea where Mindy had been cremated. This was information I had gotten third hand from Mr. McIntyre. Then I received a phone call from a gentleman who said that, you know, I had to arrange to pick them up, and we were discussing where we would both be, and he said that he could meet me in Montgomery, Alabama.
And what did he give you there?
He gave me a bag that he said contained Mindy's ashes. It also contained her engagement ring and her wedding ring.
What, if anything, did you give him?
I gave him $5,000 in cash that I withdrew that morning from the Renaissance Bank in Montgomery, Alabama.
Did he give you any additional paperwork?
He did not.
Did he give you a death certificate?
He did not.
Mindy goes to doctor. She dies there. He shows up. They tell her that she died. No reason why. No nothing. And then some random man meets him on the interstate on the side of the road and exchanges the ashes with no death certificate for $5,000. This was the best story he could come up with. Of all the lies you could tell, think of all the lies this man's told. That's what he landed on and said, that sounds reasonable. People will believe that. I'm going to run it by the jury. Can you imagine that? Having to try and sell this. There's no way.
We've seen pictures of your burned up Ford Explorer. What happened?
Sir. On March, believe it was March 20th of 2023, I was driving the Ford Explorer. I had left the rental we were staying at driven north to run some errands and also to, I believe, picked up a cashier's check for the purchase of a home. And shortly thereafter, I was making a turn onto another road, and the car was kind of fighting me a little. Like it was taking more force to turn than I thought it would. I continued down the road and was smelling something odd, which in Lancaster County is not necessarily indicative of anything but that you're driving by a farm. And I stopped. At that point, I realized that there was smoke in the interior of the car. I got out, and crossed around to the passenger side to get my phone out, but opened the door, and the fire kind of just came right up at me. It was the car went up extremely fast.
Now, keep in mind from the interrogation, the cops will call him out and say that the injuries he was describing is a flash. I don't know what the technical name is, but like a flash or whatever. Basically, it's saying he started the fire. Can almost assure you that that's exactly what happened. Now, also key elements from this clip are going to pick up a cashier's check. Oh, now the cashier's check's gone. He's always doing something with money that never can quite come to fruition. One thing like that is understandable, but this is all he ever does. He goes from lie to conundrum to lie to conundrum and over and over and over.
You say you didn't draw the cashier's check. Who drew the cashier's check?
Somebody that Jim McIntyre worked with, who he had me meet and pick up that morning.
And what happened to the check?
The check burned along with my car, bits of me, and everything I had in the car at the time.
What'd you do about the destroyed check?
I talked to Mr. McIntyre, within, I don't know the exact time. It was pretty shocking. But I was driven back to the rental by a police officer, and I called him while I was still in the police officer's car to say, I need a new cashier's check. And he said, I think that might take a while. I think that's a problem. So while he was calling about the actual account, I was calling the general Citizens Bank customer service, and they confirmed to me that it was a long process to get a cashier's check reissued, because their concern is they have to honor a cashier's check, so they have to wait a certain amount of time after they have issued the kind of stop payment on it to make sure it has not been presented at some other bank.
So this is what I'm talking about, and this is what I think this dude could do, and I'm not saying specifically this is how this went down for him, but I think a lot of his life does. So imagine he's saying like, yeah, baby, I'm gonna go get the cashier's check and we're gonna go buy that dream house. So he goes to go get it, and he has to come up with some grand, huge thing, right? And it has to be bigger than the next lie, because he just is riding the coattails off of that. What better thing than I almost died in the car. We have to wait to get the check. Well, now we're gonna lose the house. Well, next time, baby, next time.
That she felt like the entire process had been so poisoned that she no longer wanted to go through with the purchase of that home. So we informed the buyers that we were not going to close. I forfeited that $50,000 EMD, and we started our home search anew.
Imagine that. Well, we gave up the $40,000 or $50,000 thing. We had 32 million, and what's 50, right? We had to start the home search over again. Now he's extreme, but when you're mixed up with someone like this, I'm talking lie after lie after lie, honey, you can smell him coming. And it doesn't start off this big, obviously, right? It starts off small. Oh, sorry, I'm running late because. Oh, I was gonna call you this weekend, but. It starts there, and they want to see what they can get away with. That's what their whole life is designed around. What will they buy? What will they let me get away with? How far can I push the line?
Did you kill your wife, Mindy Kassotis?
I absolutely did not. I've never put my hands on a woman. I've never hurt a woman. I would never have hurt Mindy.
Did you strike her on the head up to 9 times?
Never, not once.
Did you dispose of her body?
No, never.
Did you dismember her body?
No, absolutely not. Frankly, I'm not great with blood. So as anyone who's ever given me a doctor's exam can tell you, that is not something that is even remotely possible for me.
Okay, let's just let him go, everybody. Why are we even here? You see how I try to pretend to get angry, like, no, never, not once. I ain't no one beater. It's like, bro, Mindy died a horrible, horrible death. horrible death, okay, at this man's hands. Make no bones about that, okay? Now, what we're gonna do next time is we're gonna look at him get his you-know-what handed to him by the state. This was low ball, easy, you know, everybody move up on the bases, you know, Nick's up to bat, you know, kind of tosses to him. Let's see what the state has to say next. So again, I do appreciate it if you are still here watching the video very, very much. If you could, in the comment section, let me know what you think, but also drop some little pillows off and little sofas off. For Roscoe and Spirit, Bo and Luke, and you, the Sofa Squad, who makes the channel possible. It wouldn't be here without you, and I'm greatly appreciative and grateful of it. And until we gather down in the comment section, do all that stuff I just reeled off, I'll see y'all soon.
I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Roscoe on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, welcome to the Sofa Squad. Sipping from the cup that hey, come laugh with the Sofa Squad. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough.